Shalom Malakim, Yisrael, Yehonathan Dah, we with you humbly so on what they call January 28th, 2024 of the year of their Lord, with episode number 60. Doctor, this is the longest I've ever done. Number 60 of the Bimil Atah Shali series, in his own words. We're going through the entire 3 years of Yahushua's ministry on earth in the flesh and blood, and using his own words to explain ultimately what the great deception is going to be at the last days, him living the Torah. And if we understand this out of his own mouth, then we would know how to live it, and we would not be able to be deceived, which is going to be the segment following this, on this last great deception. We last week we talked about the abomination of tribulation, and we talked about how the seals 1 through 5 have been going on for the past 2,000 years. So we got people looking for seals and trumpets and bowls. Well, we're already waiting for seal number 6. I referenced 2 scriptures to give an example of. Let me just review that real quick. Zechariah 13, 7 through 9. And it reads, "Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, against the man who is my companion, says Yahweh Sabaoth. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered." Well, that's no longer a prophecy, because Yahushua indeed over 2,000 years ago has been struck, and we have been scattered throughout all the world. So that's already happened. Now watch this. "Then I would turn my hand against the little ones." That's us. See, after the shepherd has been struck and resurrected, now the hand turns against us. "And it will come to pass in all the land, says Yahweh, that 2/3 in it will be cut off and die, and 1/3 will be left in it. I will bring the 1/3 through the..." So we've been scattered and struck. We've had the transatlantic slave trade. Well, before that, we had all kinds of pogroms and all this kind of stuff against us. We've been just chased around the world and then scattered over here. Okay? And then it says, "I will bring 1/3 through the fire, will refine them as silver is refined, and test them as gold is tested." So we're going through that right now. "They will call on my name." So now we got the Great Awakening, the Hebrew movement. Everybody waking up now and calling on various names of the Hebrew names. "And I will answer them. I will say, this is my people." So that hasn't happened yet. The revelation of who we are hasn't happened yet. "And each one will say, Yahweh is my Elohim." So we got a far-reaching prophecy here in Zechariah. I read chapter 13, 7 through 9. So when is this going to be actualized or finalized, all of this? Well, Daniel, talking about when the Malak was giving him the prophecy of the end times, it was just frightening to Daniel. I mean, his jaw dropped. He was numb. And at the end of verse 6, he says, "How long will the fulfillment of these wonders be?" He said, "These are wonders. How long is it going to be before this is fulfilled?" This is what the Malak said. The angel said, "Then I heard the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and swore to him who lives forever, that it would be for a time, times, and half a time." Okay, so that's a prophecy about the times. I'm not going to go into that right now. But listen to this. "And when the power," this is the answer to the question of how long is this going to be when all this devastation happens to Israel, Yahweh's chosen seed. "And when the power of the Kodesh people," that's us, "has been completely shattered, all these things will be finished." That's what actually, this could be Yahushua himself saying this, but we know it's a powerful Malak, powerful angel, and he raised both his heavens to heaven and swore to Yahweh. So this is huge. That means this is in fact going to happen. That these things, this destruction of us, this is why we got, now listen to these false prophets who say peace and safety for us and all this kind of good stuff is going to happen. No, right here in the Malak's words himself, in Daniel 12:7, he says it's going to continue out beat down the destruction until it says till the Kodesh people have been completely shattered. Completely shattered. Right now, it's not been completely shattered. Hey, I got a ministry on here. I can curse the president out. You can vote, march, say all kinds of stuff. You can have ministries. You can keep your faith however you want to keep it. All these things. So we have not been completely shattered. So that means the completely end times has not happened yet. Okay? So we've been going through this for 2,000 years now of us being attacked. Okay, so we are now past 5 seals. That's my two of my scriptures to show that. We're waiting for the 6th seal, which happens with that great earthquake, which I believe that's when the resurrection of the righteous will be. So, and then it goes on. Now, we read Luke 17, 20-37 about this kingdom coming. We gotta realize that you cannot read the Bible as a regular book, like everything comes in order the way it is. But this Luke 17, 20-37 is about the millennial kingdom. Okay, and after that comes the bowls. So, the millennial kingdom comes after the bowls, I should say. So you got the bowls have not started yet. The bowls are for judgment, and never in the history of the world do you get judgment producing repentance. Judgment is judgment. That's final. Repentance is supposed to happen before judgment. So once judgment comes out, there is no repentance. So you have the bowls, and then you have the millennial kingdom. So that's what Luke 17, 20-37. So don't get that mixed up. Matter of fact, it says in Luke 17, 20 that the kingdom does not come by observation. So for all those out there arguing and fussing about a calendar and what kind of calendar to use, your observation of the feast days is not going to tell you when this is going to happen. We still endorse, y'all, if you're Hebrews or Christians, we endorse keeping the feast days. We're supposed to. That don't mean you're going to keep Passover in the middle of winter, and you're not keeping Sukkot in the middle of the spring. But we do know, this is according to what Yahweh should say out of his own mouth, that the kingdom is not coming by your observation, by your careful figuring out mathematical equations and calendar keeping of the observation of it. We do know that, going back to Daniel 7:25, that this beastly system is going to seek to change times and laws. So everything is off anyway. This is one of the reasons why you have to have this earthquake, to get us back onto Enoch's calendar. So Romans 10:17 says, faith comes by hearing, hearing by the word of Yahweh. Well, what is the word of Yahweh? Well, straight up, Revelation 19:13. You probably missed this because we read through things so fast. But Revelation 19:13 says, he was clothed with a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Debar of Yahweh, the word of Yahweh. Yahweh Shua is the word of Yahweh. We know in John 1:1 says, in the beginning was the word, and the word became flesh. Yahweh Shua is the word of Yahweh. So oftentimes, what happens is, what you really don't realize, when we out, these prophets talking about, well, the word of Yahweh came to me and said thus and so. Yahweh Shua literally came up to these prophets. Then the question goes, then how did he know what he looked like? Well, how did Nimrod know when he had Abraham thrown in the fire and Abraham came out? He saw he knew what Yahweh looked like in there. How did Nebuchadnezzar know when he had the 3 Hebrew boys, when he knew what the Yahweh Shua looked like? Maybe you got to go to my second book and look at the chapter, The Color of Man, to understand how these people knew what the word of Yahweh looked like. Okay. Maybe somebody will contact me to try to get that second book, Yahweh for Hebrews, Yahweh, I'm original words, Yahweh Shua, I'm in original words, original truth. Now, so what about Luke 21:20-24 we talked about last week? The destruction of Jerusalem. Again, this is history. The temple has already been destroyed. You know that. So that's why they got to build another one, which I think is already built. If not, it's almost finished. They got a ready heifer and all that stuff. So that's past history about the temple being destroyed. We're now, and then he said the time of the Gentiles will follow that. That's again proof. That's 3 scriptures: Zechariah 13:7-9, Daniel 12:7, and now Luke 21:20-24. That shows that we are in the time of the Gentiles and have been in the time of Gentiles for the past 2,000 years. Now, I want to read about these bold judgments in Luke 21. Before I begin, today's topic is going to be the lesson of the fig tree, and you don't want to miss this one, the lesson of the fig tree. But one scripture before I go into there, Luke 21. Okay, Luke 21. You know, a lot of times you look at follow y'all for Hebrews and Christians, you're going to learn some things you're not hearing anywhere else, especially even from some of our Hebrew camps. So always you're going to learn something here, and your ears are going to hear things you haven't heard or very seldom hear. Now about these bold judgments, Luke 21, 25 through 28, the Yahweh Shua himself speaking, talking about the coming of the Son of Man. And there will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and on the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. Because the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. Now, so when these things begin to happen, that's the seals and the trumps. That's the beginning. Because remember, when Yahweh resurrected, the first century forefathers believed that he was going to come in their lifetime. You know, there's 1,000 years, 1,000 years a day to Yahweh. This is nothing to him. 2,000 years, this is not even a blink of the eye. We must always be pressed for time. So he said these things begin to happen, then look up. So these things begin to happen, then the seals have already started. And so the seals and the trumps is the beginning of these things happening, because there's always been these things that he just said have always been going on. They've always been happening. So we must now be looking for our redemption, because at that the bold judgments come and it is too late. Now let's go on to today's topic, the lesson of the fig tree, Luke 21, 29 through 33. Now, look at this. We're in the last week of Yahweh Shua's ministry on this earth. We're still on Tuesday morning. We've been on Tuesday morning for, I think, what, the last four episodes here. Whole lot going on Tuesday morning. Now he's going to give a lesson to this. They went by this fig tree earlier. And now we're going to go by this, talk about this fig tree again, or the fig tree period. We're reading from Luke 21, 29 to 33. So then he spoke to them a parable. And it's a pity that he chooses a parable of a fig tree, because Yisrael is represented as a fig tree. We haven't really talked about that, but you can go read on your own Hosea 9:10, Jeremiah 8:13. You can read the entire chapter of Jeremiah 24. And other places where Israel is spoken of. One of the representatives of Israel is the fig tree. And it's very fitting, because what did Adam and Eve do after the fall? They went to a fig tree and got leaves to cover themselves. So it was their righteousness. Okay? They covered themselves with fig leaves. That was their righteousness to cover up sin. That's important. Okay? So you got the fig tree, which was juxtaposed against the tree of life and a tree of knowledge of good. Now they say good and evil, but that's English. There's nothing evil or wicked in the creation. Yahweh, when he finished, he said everything was very good. So that's a mistranslation when it says good and evil. Knowledge of good and just different ways of good. The details of Yahweh. The tree of life, and then you have the tree of the knowledge of, deeper knowledge of Yahweh, which they say the devil is in the details. You're not supposed to be examining Yahweh like that. So think about that. So it's very fitting he uses this is a lot of talk about a fig tree. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. They are already budding. You see and know for yourself that summer is now near. So you also, when you see these things happening, know that the kingdom of Yahweh is near. Surely I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. So that's our object lesson today. Look at this about this. He says, when the tree is budding, you know, then if the tree is budding, it signals summer. That means they are currently not in summer. They're what we call spring. So this is just another proof that the sacrifice of Yahshua was during the time of what they call Passover, and Passover's in the spring. So for you who keep, all you out there who keeping the holy days and appointed times, keeping Passover in the summer, you're too late. Keeping it in the fall, you're too early. Okay? So, actually summer is too late and fall is too early. Yes, I said it right. So it must be kept in the spring. Then he talks about heaven and earth. Okay, so you got celestial bodies and earthly bodies giving signs to the kingdom of Yahweh. They're coming together for the kingdom of Yahweh. He says, when you discern these things, it is the birth that the kingdom is near. And that means it is at hand. What did John the Baptist, what was his ministry? Was to teach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That means right then and there, it was already at hand, and it was. Because his cousin was just a few months away from coming about doing the same thing. And what did he do? So Matthew 3:2. John the Baptist begins his ministry talking about the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Then you go just the next chapter over, Matthew 4:7. Yahshua now beginning his ministry. And what does he say? The same thing his cousin said. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Now, I say, look at your hand. Stick out there in front of you. It's very close to you, isn't it? Hand ain't too far. So the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That means it's not too far away. Just like your hand ain't too far away. So if the kingdom of heaven was close at hand 2,000 years ago, how close is it now? You have to put your hand right in front of your eyeballs where you can see every last cranny and imprint of your hand. The kingdom of heaven is here. It is right here. It is no time to play. If it was at hand 2,000 years ago, where is it now? It must be up in your nose. The kingdom. So stop looking for all these signs. They've already happened. All these signs have already happened. He said the kingdom does not come for observation. Luke 17:20. So now he talks about this generation. What does that mean? Because obviously all those people are dead in verse 22. What if you read it, do the examination of the words of this, what it's saying is time will not continue in its routines. That's what he is saying. He says, surely the time will not continue in its routines. That's what it means by this generation will not pass away. Confirm that with 2 Peter 3:3 and 4. Let me confirm that with 2 Peter 3:3 and 4. And it reads, knowing this first, that scoffers will come in the last days, walking according to their own lust, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? Because since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. All things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. Isn't that what they said before the flood? The same thing. Continuing in what they were doing. So this is what Yahshua is saying. Is surely this generation will not, what he was saying is, this will not continue in its routines. The time will not continue in its routines. That's what he said. Look at the word about generations is Greek word number 1074. Genea. It means practically infinity of time. So that's what it means. Look up Greek word 1074 when he uses this word this generation. It means practically infinity of time. It will not pass away until it is fulfilled. Hebrew word for forever is not the English word forever means. Remember, this is a Hebrew book. Do not use your modern language with your modern thinking in this modern times in a different culture to try to interpret the word given to us by Ruach HaKodesh through Hebrew peoples. And even still, we have prognosticators and prophets and false prophets always talking about the last day, trying to prophesy and predict the last day. Well, the last day is the last time you draw your breath. Because it doesn't matter whether Yahweh comes tomorrow or 1,000 years from now. What does it matter for when you draw your last breath? The second coming of Yahweh, the last day on earth, is when you expire. And right now, you're inspiring and expiring. You breathe in, you breathe out. When you don't breathe in anymore, that's why they call it expiration. You have expired. You have expired because you're no longer inspirating. You're no longer breathing in. Hence, you have expired. And for you, whoever, every day Yahweh comes, because thousands and probably even millions die every day. That means the second coming has already happened. Because next time they wake up, they either get judgment or salvation. It's already set. So please, we need to live every day with Yahweh as our inspiration. Let Yahweh be your inspiration for living, for doing what you do. Do all things to His glory, He says, because after you no longer are inspired, that means you have expired. You're no longer inspiring. So while you're living, while you're breathing, you praise Yahweh. Yahweh be your inspiration while you're living. That is the second coming, judgment or salvation. Wow. For those who want to predict when He's coming, that is the exact time He's coming, when you finish breathing. Luke 21, 26, 27, talking about the Son of Man. Let's read Luke 21, 26, 27. Go back to that. Luke 21. Men's hearts, talking about men's hearts failing them for fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory. The power of heavens shaken. Remember, Peter talked about shaking once and shaking a second again. You're going to have a first shaking, that's the Western world shaking. Then you're going to have the second shaking. And then you're going to have the dome burning up. Because that's what Hasatan is going to use to deceive the whole world by what they see. When he puts that Torah up there, just like he presented a good thing to Eve, what was sinful was that Satan has no authority to present nothing good to nobody. He cannot. He's wicked. He is the father of wickedness and evilness and lies. He had no business in the tree, and he should have been rebuked, but was not. He had no business in the tree, and he had no business offering anything. That's what was wrong. There was nothing wrong on that tree. So the same thing is going to be in these latter days. You're going to have wickedness offering the Torah. The Torah is beautiful and wonderful and perfect, converting the soul. What's wrong is you're going to have Hasatan offering it. And offering it in the wrong way and the wrong time. That's what's going to deceive the whole world, because no one is against the law. Everyone believes in law. Even when they don't follow, they know there's a law that they're breaking. That's why they run and hide. But by the time you look up to see the Son of Man, it's too late. It says, then look up your redemption's door nigh. But if you're looking for these signs before you get yourself right, you're already too late. Because by the time He cracks the sky, there's judgment. Stop trying to pick the right time to follow Yahweh. He said, today if you hear my voice, harden not your heart, like they did those who provoked me in the desert. Don't do that. You don't know when you're going to draw your last breath. The second coming is the time you draw your last breath. Hebrews 3:15 saying, I just quoted Hebrews 3:15 there. Receive Yahweh today. And he said in Hebrews 3:33, indeed, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Heaven and earth will pass away because it's going to be a new creation, a recreation. He says, behold, I make all things new. Even heaven's going to have to be made new, because everywhere man has been is defiled. He's been up to the dome. So that's got to come down, and everything's going to be new. Heaven and earth is going to be one, unified together. Now, that is the lesson of the fig tree, but that is not all about the tree. We talked about this about a month and a half ago. I want to talk a little bit more about this fig tree. Remember, Israel is represented as a fig tree. One of the symbols of Israel is the fig tree, because it's the fig tree that Adam and Eve ran to cover themselves after they fell. So the fig tree is fallen Israel. You know, another parable was when the vine dresser said he's going to destroy this fig tree because it's fruitless. And then his employee said, no, give me 3 more years to work on this tree. Well, the owner was Yahweh. That's what the parable's about. Maybe I'll get that one next week. And the one who worked for him was Yahshua. He said, give me 3 more years to work with this tree. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to talk about that next week. But let's go back to this cursed fig tree, because this is the same tree that Yahshua coming into Jerusalem on a Monday. Remember, this was on Monday. After healing the man who had became blind. Remember the lesson about that? It's different. Before he healed a young man who was born blind. That's a different lesson. Okay, that represents the Gentiles. But then he healed a man who became blind. That represents Yisrael. And then he had the scribes and Pharisees say, are we blind? You said it, because you said we don't see, then the sin is not against you. But you say we see, then your sin is against you. Now he come in, and we see Zacchaeus, who was a short man. And he had to climb into a fig tree. Your English version says sycamore tree. This was a type of fig tree. So he can see. See, it's a play on this word seeing. So he can see Yahshua. He was a wicked man and done wickedly, but he had converted and truly repented. Thus, Yahshua went to his house and he dined with him. He said, come down from that fig tree. Come down. I'm going in your house. This man truly repented and gave back much more than he stole from the people. So we got a man who was in a fig tree, who got up to see salvation, received salvation into his home. Revelations 3:20, behold, I come to the door and I knock on the door, coming to your house. So we got a converted man here who looked to see Yahshua and converted. And he did so, seeing him in the tree, and then brought him to his home. So that was on Monday. Now, that happened in the town called Bethphage, right outside of Israel. You go through this area, and it's called Bethphage, means house of unripe figs. This is why it pays to study words to help give a deeper understanding of this book that's given to us in English. You would not have known that so-called sycamore tree was a fig tree. You would not have known that it was in the town of Bethphage, which means house of unripe figs. Hence the reason why Yahshua cursed that tree, because it did bud. It had buds on it. Remember, we talked about what those buds mean, okay? Because those buds means that it should have had fruit on it. It should have had fruit on it, but it didn't. This is just like Yisrael. Remember, Yahshua says, what happened to you? I planted you a good vine. How did you turn so bad? This represents Yisrael, who should have received Yahshua, should have been fruitful in him. It should have done it, but we didn't. Yisrael did not receive Yahshua. Those buds are called Breba, B-R-E-B-A. Look up B-R-E-B-A. These are buds that's on the fig tree that actually, I believe, starts the previous summer. So that means the following year, they're supposed to start budding. But this area, I believe, is a portal, is a stronghold. This tree, I believe, was the tree in the Garden of Eden. Just like Yahshua died, the tree he died on, the almond tree on the almond tree on the Mount of Olives, Yahshua died on the tree of life. So they cannot find. That's another portal, another stronghold, a righteous stronghold that is not being able to access. Well, juxtaposed against the tree of life is the fig tree that Adam and Eve turned to cover themselves with. This tree, okay, that should have budded, should have been fruitful, was not. This tree is the tree that Judas hung himself on. Now, by being Passover, they could not touch him because they would defile themselves. They couldn't keep Passover being defiled. So he hung up there for a week. And we know in Hebrews, it says that he rotted and fell down into the ditch. This fig tree also rotted, and Judas rotted, and they fell down into the ditch. We know it says Matthew 27:5 says that he hung himself. Acts 1:18 says that he rotted, his entrails came out, because he hung up there for a whole week. No one would dare touch him because they would be defiled for the Passover. And he stank. You know, says John 19:31 is when they wanted to break Yeshua's legs so he can die, because they couldn't have anyone hanging on the tree during Passover. Of course, they didn't break his legs because he indeed gave up his soul to his Father. So we got the tree of life at the top of the Mount of Olives that Yahweh dies on, gives up his life on. At the bottom of the Mount of Olives, you had the fig tree, that same tree that Adam and Eve used to cover themselves with. These two trees are portals. You cannot find these areas now. They are strongholds. One stronghold for righteousness and one stronghold for wickedness. So that is the another lesson I want to give. I do want to talk, maybe, I just thought about this like I said today, maybe I will talk about the other parable, the fig tree, where the tree was given 3 more years of life. Next week, lesson number 61, no one knows the day or the hour. I want to bless Yahweh for these lessons. I hope it's helping you. I hope it's teaching you. And I hope you're gaining and learning from it. The focus is on Yahweh himself and nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. As such, I just want to end off today with a song from my heart to my lover Yahweh. Bear with me if you will. I love you, Yah, and I lift my voice to worship you. Oh, my soul, rejoice. Take joy, my King, in what you hear. Make it a sweet sound in your ear. I adore thee. I adore thee. I adore thee, Yahweh Shua. I adore thee. I adore thee. I adore thee, Yahweh. I love you, Yahweh. Bless my heart to love you as you ought to be loved. Remove from me the stony heart. Give me a heart of flesh, O Yah. Circumcise my ears to Shema. And the audience here, ears to Shema. They hear your words to us. Your words, the pain of your love. Now it is our turn to live in this flesh and feel the pain of our love for you. Shalom Aleichem Yisrael. Peace be on you.